Dan Bongino put out a tweet earlier today celebrating the fact that the FBI has taken off the streets child predators in the state of Texas who had been involved in unimaginable atrocities, horrendous atrocities. And I'm going to read the post because I do say, and I firmly believe, if you criticize incessantly without giving credit where credit is due, your criticism is disingenuous. And let me explain what I mean by that. I appreciate that some people are going to say my criticism of Eric Swalwell is disingenuous. And to some extent, it's disingenuous in that I am deliberately and specifically trying to be a troll when it comes to Eric Swalwell because I am convinced that he is a bad man that doesn't deserve sincere discourse. You cannot have sincere discourse with a man who is a pathological liar. And so the only thing that you can do is rail on them 24/7 because they deserve it. So I can appreciate when someone says, Viva, are you ever going to give Eric Swalwell credit if he does something right? Maybe, but only to say that he's a spy-banging, corrupt, treasonous individual who, but congratulations on doing the right thing this time. You want to issue legitimate, sincere criticism, you have to give credit where credit is due. And today, credit is due for what the FBI under Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are doing. Dan Bongino says at FBID Bongino, that is FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, I want to commend the work done by FBI Dallas on 2 cases keeping our kids safe. A tip from FBI Albany led to an investigation by FBI Dallas into subject Carlos Ruiz. Ruiz's crimes were some of the worst we've seen. He was part of an online group that prided themselves on exploiting children. Ruiz directly delivered a young child to another subject in Texas, where that young child was then sexually abused. Unfortunately, they weren't the only victim, but our investigators made sure he wouldn't do it again. Ruiz will now spend 80 years behind bars for sexually abusing multiple children as young as 2 and 3 old and filming the abuse. I know what avatar or what icon we're probably seeing in the chat right now. The second subject was Christopher Driskill. When the FBI's Child Exploitation Operational Unit posted his pictures on our, quote, Operation Rescue Me, end quote, and Endangered Child Program, ECAP, page, one tip from a foreign partner exposed him as a dark web predator, matching his distinctive tattoos with photos on his social media. Now he'll spend 60 years in prison. This is why we do what we do every day, getting dangerous predators off the street and behind bars. This is work that saves lives. We never back down in the fight for our kids. God bless America and all those who defend her. I like that sign off. I like it almost as much as thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, what ended up happening with that particular tweet is exactly what you would expect to happen with that particular tweet. People who are rightly and righteously frustrated about the continued debacle of the Epstein rollout and the Epstein client list reveal that never was. It's sort of like the Geraldo Rivera of client list reveals. Come out and, put out the predictable, I call them trolls to some extent, because some of them are objective trolls, others are legit, but maybe displaced criticism. Let's just go this here. I'll come up to mine. Keeping kids safe. This is from John Burke, but hides behind his desk at the mention of the Epstein files. LOL. I'm glad to see that they're not getting traction of approval. Solomon Anderson, justice doesn't exist unless you hold the Epstein and Pizzagate pedophiles accountable too. Wealth and station should not shield anyone from the truth and justice. Ivan Raiklan says, what happened to the pipe bomb from January 5th and 6th you supposedly prioritized when you met Maria Bartiromo? I may have to give you a grade for your work thus far, and it doesn't start with the letter A. And I say, when you are in the same bandwagon as Wu-Tang is for the children, if you don't know this account, it's the dumbest Democrat troll account you can imagine. So what's up with the Epstein files? What's up with the Epstein? All right. I put out a reply, which I'll bring up right now because it's here. And this is not to defend Dan at all. I'm sort of at the point right now where if I'm Dan, I can understand I can relate to Dan's frustration because people are like, hey, Dan, what about the FBI? What about Epstein files? Dan is deputy director of the FBI. That's not, and I say not even, it's an amazing position. He's not the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. He's not the attorney general, Pam Bondi. And he's not the president, Donald John Trump. So in the pecking order of where blame for inaction should lie, typically it should lie with those who actually have the power to carry out the actions that you are demanding that they carry out and faulting them for having not carried out. I wrote, good work, Dan. And for all those in the replies responding with, what about Epstein? A zealot is someone who never changes the subject and refuses to change their mind. Don't be a zealot. It takes a serious degree of intellectual dishonesty to hijack a post about arresting and convicting child predators in order to complain about the Epstein debacle. When you are with the Wu-Tang, you're in the wrong crowd. Also, not for nothing. If you believe the news from a few weeks ago when Bongino allegedly threatened to leave the FBI because of Pam's performance, if you believe the news from a few weeks ago, Bongino did everything in his power to indicate his disapproval of Pam Bondi's handling of the Epstein situation. Take up your grievances of the Epstein file debacle with the person in charge instead of trolling a man who's actually taking child predators off the street. My goodness, take a moment and reflect instead of trying to get that dopamine hit. Some people might say, Viva, confession through projection with the amount of shit posting that you do on the likes of Eric Swallowwell, Adam Schiff for Brains McShiftface, Jerry Modern Slave Trade Nadler. Who else? Adam Crying, also Modern Slave Day Kinzinger. Justin Trudeau I've been laying off of for a little while. Mark J. Carney. Even when I go and troll, I include a little bit of constructive criticism along with my trolling insults. I don't do it for the dopamine hit, people. That's just a secondary beneficial effect. But I understand what people are angry about. On the one hand, yes, Bongino and Patel came out on Maria Bartiromo and said something that a lot of people don't believe. I don't personally believe it, but there's a but to that. Let me bring it up again because I think we need to refresh our respective memories. This was the Quartering who put this up a little while back. Oh, I don't know if the Quartering raided us yet, but the Quartering, thank you for the raid, and my apologies. I ended a few minutes before your stream went live, so I didn't get to raid you. Quartering put out a tweet. This was a while back, May 18. For years, my goodness, is it already May? April, May to June, July. That's 3 months ago already. Sorry. For years, Kash Patel Bongino have called people crazy to believe Epstein killed himself. I'm not sure if Bongino ever said that specifically. Patel, I think, more likely. And now that they've been in the club for about 40 seconds, they release a joint statement like it's open and shut. Nothing weird about it at all. He 100% did end his own life. Here's the video.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work.
Hold on one second. The memes that came out of this only because of body language and the behavior panel did a great one here. Where's that here? Yeah. There's body language to be read there. Some people say, look, Viva, it's fair game to troll Bongino because he came out and lied to us when he said, I've seen the file, he killed himself. To which I say two things. First of all, Epstein might have killed himself. That doesn't resolve the conspiracy. That in and of itself is a new conspiracy. I still haven't figured out what scene from what show it was where an agent came to this. I'm pretty sure he was Middle Eastern because it's one of those types of shows like 24, House of Cards, Homeland. It was one of the three. And they basically talked him into taking his own life by saying, we're going to ruin you if you don't, but if you do, we're going to give your family and kids money for the rest of their lives. It'll be fine. He took his own life. It's conceivable that Epstein hung himself with the extra bed linens that were in his cell when the cameras were out the other direction, when his cellmate was gone, whatever. So what Bongino's saying might be technically true, but it might in and of itself be another conspiracy. I appreciate people saying nobody believes it and we get to troll him for the rest of his life. Okay, you want to do that, but then you have resorted to being a troll and you have resorted to actually never giving credit when Patel and Bongino, or when Bongino specifically, touts the successes of the FBI for doing exactly what you were complaining about is not being done in Epstein, but with actual current modern day predators who are actually currently in modern times, in real time, engaging in sexual predatory behavior on children. So if you want to be that type of person, go ahead and do it. Troll every tweet that he says. Some people are also going to say, we're past the point of the FBI doing a victory lap every time they do their job, which is arrest criminals. Okay, I can appreciate that too. If your goal in life is to troll the people who are actually on the good side, and maybe you say, no, they're not on the good side because they said something I don't believe and now they'll always be on the bad side. If that's your goal, fine. But I think that Bongino, FBI deserve credit where credit is due. And I do say some people are trolling me and saying, Viva, they're gaslighting us. I'm like, first of all, nobody's going to lecture me on not being vocal about the critique of the Epstein rollout and what I believe is something of an Epstein cover up for the time being. Nobody has been more vocal than me. Direct your energies and your critique at the people in positions of power who have the ability to make the decisions. I'm not convinced that the deputy director of the FBI, though powerful that position may be, has the power to do it. Go after Bondi. Go after Bondi, who did jack squat on Douglas Mackey. Go after Bondi, criticize her, try to push her into action, who did nothing on Dr. Kirk Moore, until it was sufficiently embarrassing. The inaction on that. Go after, criticize Pam Bondi for her inaction on the persecution of Bitcoin Jesus. Would it be fair to go after Bongino for that? Yes, he said something you don't like. Yes, he said something you don't believe. Yes, he said something which, even if it is true, begs a further conspiracy. But give credit where credit is due and criticize the people who are in the positions to do what you want them to do. Bullshit? I'm going to need a more fleshed out rationale for that. Let me see here. If they think he took his own life, then show us the evidence that convinced you. Well, they'll say, and the other argument is when they say, look, we looked at the file, and based on the file, he took his own life. That's what Bongino said there. Well, my criticism from the beginning, directed to Patel and Bongino, there was, how the hell can you rely on that file? That was before Trump said the file's corrupt. So I've publicized my questions, my queries to Dan Bongino. But if you think that means every time they have actual success, actual taking off the street of predators, you're going to say, oh, what about Epstein? What about Epstein? A time and a place. Don't be a zealot.